everybody. Welcome back to Blood Monsters and Fears, a horror monster movie podcast, hosted by me, Craig Brosnan.
And me, Anastasia Castleberry. So, we're on week, I don't know, 7? Is this
Yes.
6 or 7? 7?
This is episode
oh
7.
Oh, God.
Time flies.
It sure do.
We would be further ahead if we haven't had so many delays, but life happens.
90% of them, me, if you're actually dedicated to this, I'm so sorry.
Is it?
It sure do be like that sometimes.
You're okay. Doesn't matter. We appreciate those listening and sticking around.
We do.
And we're doing our best to keep this weekly, of course. This episode is also delayed, but again, life happens. Actually, election happened, and we were just busy with things surrounding that. Actual
Also,
voting, being stressed, and then just a lot of other stuff. We pulled rare Pokemon cards. We had to sell those. It's been a wild time.
I got some AirPods. It's been wild.
That's true. Unrelated completely, but we just had a nice dinner with my family, so that was a good time. We watched a spooky movie for this episode.
It was a good time.
Debatably more depressing than spooky.
It's low-key so sad.
So this episode is on Pet Sematary from 1989, right? Okay,
yep.
Yes. She was mouthing the year.
Oh my God.
When she could have just said it and made me not sound like a goon when I was trying to...
You were the one who started saying it,
I guess.
Blame yourself.
I guess. So, this movie wasn't, as many people know, recently remade last year, right? That was last year.
It was last year.
And we saw that in theaters. I kind of enjoyed it. Anna did not really.
I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just it's not my story. It's not the one I know. It's not the one I love. It's not the one that made me cry the first time I watched it because it's creepy and sad.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing because this is the first review that we've done where we've both seen the remake, but one of us hadn't seen the original. So it's like I already had a big idea about what this movie was going to be about. The themes, the kind of atmosphere of the whole film, and I wasn't as surprised going into this, but there's some pretty big changes that I did not know, so it was very interesting to see how it played out in the original. And what were your thoughts on this movie? You've seen it before, but in general, how do you feel about this movie?
So first of all, I love it. Why do I love it, you may ask? Because the father in this is fine as hell.
My God, he is the hunkiest hunk of everybody that we've
reviewed at this point.
I don't know, young Akira from Godzilla.
No, I would argue this guy's much hotter.
I don't know. They're probably neck and neck for me.
He's got that hot dad when he's walking with the baby on his back. I'm like, oh, that's hot. That's the most attractive thing is a man that is good with children. I'm like, oh, hello.
Yeah, he oh my God. He was a looker.
He's very handsome. I do love this movie. I definitely have my gripes with it in a way, but overall, I love it for what it is, and it makes me so sad. I think more than anything, I just feel so awful for this family. It breaks my heart. It really, really does.
Yeah, because they don't do anything wrong.
No, they're good
it's just
people.
A bunch of unfortunate situations, one after the other.
And I guess life is kind of like that. It's like they say in one of my past favorites is not a favorite of mine anymore, but it used to be. Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that somebody says to Arya it's like, this is me paraphrasing, that death and all the bad things in the world don't just come for the wicked and leave the good behind. So, it's kind of indiscriminate, the terrible things that happen to people.
Who says that to Arya?
I think it's her, I don't remember for sure, but I think it's the guy who teaches her how to sword fight.
Oh, yeah.
Her dancing teacher. I'm pretty sure it's him.
Yes, that's right. I know you're talking about him. Shout out to Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4. Maybe 5 and 6, too. But
I just pretend 7 didn't happen. There is no season 7.
What about season 8?
There is no season 8 either.
I didn't hate 7 as much as most people did, but in retrospect, I see why people had a lot of problems with it, so...
Anyway. I do love this movie. I love that they have my original boyfriend from me being a child, Herman Munster.
Oh, yeah.
I love you.
Odd choice in men, but...
He's the kindest man.
He does give off that gentle giant vibe.
And that's what I'm about. Look at you.
I'm 5'9".
He's not 5'9". He's taller than that. Anyway, yeah, this movie's great. It is, if you don't know, based off of a very good book by Stephen King.
Your favorite author of all time.
I love him. I love him.
Horror or not, he is your favorite, correct?
Yes, he and I go back. We go way back.
You've read almost all of his books, right?
The majority of everything he's written.
Would you say Pet Sematary is like towards the top for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely up there, given he's written so much. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
books that he's put out, and there are definitely things that come ahead of it, but for different reasons. This is different than anything else, I feel like, than he wrote, because, and that's something that he discusses as well on his own, of his own volition. A fun fact before we get into things, this really wasn't supposed to be published. It's something that he wrote, and it sat in a drawer for a couple years, and he was parting ways with his original publisher, which I think was Doubleday. I think they're still around. I could be wrong. And since he was ending his contract with them, he still owed them one more novel. So he just kind of dusted off this story and gave it to them, and then they edited it and put it out. And he's spoken out on his own. Like, he doesn't hate it, but he doesn't love it either. And the way he puts it is that, how do I put this? It shouldn't exist. And no one should ever really read it because of how it came to fruition. It wasn't probably how he wanted it to. He doesn't think that it's a bad story, like, not in the way it's written, not what it's about necessarily, but he thinks it's a bad story because it's kind of like that. It doesn't really matter what you do, the bad is going to win, and he doesn't believe that. And that's why this is definitely different than a lot of other things that he writes specifically, is the evil does not win out with him. I would say 9 times out of 10, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. He's very much, the good will outweigh the evil no matter what. Like, this is somebody who is heavily influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Really?
Yes. He's a fucking nerd, yeah. And if you, and to be as old as he is, and to be into writing and be as nerdy as he is, yeah, he loves him. They all love him.
That's fair.
You know, that no matter how bad things get, they can always get better, and this story doesn't show that at all. And I think this movie as well definitely shows you that. But it's more of a sad way. Like, I would say the remake shows it in that dark, scary way, but this is more like, God, that's so depressing kind of way.
That's kind of how I felt too when I sat on how I felt about it compared to the remake, because I felt like the remake was more of an actual horror movie, and it was much more like scary and dark, opposed to this, the original. I just felt sad. Like, at no point did I really feel scared. There was one quote unquote like jump scare that really got me, which was when Church first comes back and he's just like, meh, like in the garage with his glowing eyes, because
so
that just caught me off guard.
That doesn't scare me at all. I've lived with cats my whole life, so
maybe
like,
that's the difference. But no, yeah, that was the only part that I really found scary. The rest of the movie just like put me in a damper mood.
Dude, no. His wife's sister,
what,
with her fucked up back and
yeah,
stuff,
that's true.
Like, she is scary.
That was a little creepy.
Zelda was scary.
Yeah, that was odd. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on this movie as well. I can't really say if I like it or dislike it. I'm pretty down the middle with it. Like, not as down the middle as I was with like Halloween, but I don't know. It's not what I expected, I guess, is just the best way to put it. But I know it's different for you too, because you have much more experience with Stephen King in general.
Yeah, my context
so I think you have
different.
I think you have different expectations when it comes to his work as well. And how would you compare this to the book? Like this specific version of the movie?
From what I remember, because
it was a while ago now.
Yeah, I read this book. I saw the movie when I was a very young, like preteen, like 13, and I read the book when I was in high school. Which is like 7 years ago now, I think.
You're old.
So it's been a long time. If I remember right, it's pretty on par. I don't remember anything being like that different or throwing me off in a like particularly hardcore way or anything. It's not like with I'm gonna get so much shit for this.
What?
The Shining.
Oh yeah, your least favorite movie.
It's a book by Stephen King that preceded the movie made by Stanley Kubrick that came out. And I do not, this is an asterisk, I do not think that it's a bad movie. There's nothing wrong with it as it is a standalone thing. I just wish they had called it anything else. Because it is not The Shining. If you've read the book The Shining by Stephen King, and you've seen the movie, you will, they're not the same story.
Yeah.
So I think this adaptation is very true in the ways that it needs to be. Like, I understand that the mediums are so different, and things that can happen in a book and the way that time passes is very different and can be portrayed in a very different way than how film shows. Because when it's in film, everything is way more fast-paced, and so much happens in a shorter span of time. Versus in a book where whole seasons change, it can take its time to set a scene and everything. But I have a gripe with several movies that have been made as adaptations of his books, because they take liberties with things that I don't think are fair. And this movie is not one of them. It plays pretty close to what I know the plot to be of the book. All the people that are supposed to die. I think it helps flesh out these characters really, really well. I think they're very much a real family. And that was part of what I didn't like about the remake, is these are people that I feel like I know them. I feel like I could know them. But with the remake, I feel like they are just not human enough to me to care about them.
Yeah. I could agree to that.
And yeah, I don't know if I got really off track there.
No, you're good. The family in the original did feel much more like an actual family.
It's so
as opposed
sad.
to the remake where it just felt like 4 people living together.
No, and it makes me so sad because
I feel like that's what makes it so powerful.
I agree. It's not, and I feel like in a lot of ways, like, it's not really supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be slice of life in a sad way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's supposed to be more of a think piece, almost.
Definitely. And I think, I mean, yeah, they published it, the first edition, with a scary cat face and stuff on it, but I think it's more than that. And I think that just trying to fit it into the box of a horror story or a horror movie it's not doing it the justice it deserves, because it talks about things that people still don't talk about. They talk about, dealing with death from a young age.
Yeah.
And learning what that means. What it means to you, how you deal with it. People still don't talk about that. About the death of a young child, what that means to grandparents, to parents, to siblings, to friends of the family, how that warps people's minds, the things that will push people to do. In modern media, they still don't properly address those things. And I think, again, just trying to fit it into this box that it has to be this one thing is enough, because it does so many things, and that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, I get you. What was I gonna say? With Stephen King, like how we're saying how this isn't really horror, like people categorize it. Has he ever written a story that wasn't a horror story?
Yeah.
Really?
There is a novella, which are usually, they're short stories.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say they're like a 20-page short story. It's like, it's in between a short story and a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called The Body. And they made that really famous movie made by Rob Reiner called Stand By Me off of it. Craig made a face, but most people who love movies or know movies really well, you've probably seen it. It's Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, and Corey Feldman.
Is that Joaquin Phoenix's brother?
Yeah, yeah, the one who died.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's always going to make me sad to anyone who heard me whisper that. I'll never be over it. Oh, also I found out recently he has a son now, and he named his son River.
Oh.
It made me cry. Anyway, and it also has John Cusack in that movie, who's been in other Stephen King adaptations. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's written several things that are not horror, and he's just as good. Mm-hmm. And I have several like collections of short stories that he's done that aren't horror stories,
Interesting.
and they're all very good.
Yeah, because I feel like no one ever talks about any of his stuff that isn't horror, so
No.
I just assumed he never did anything that
Yeah,
wasn't.
no.
So that's kind of cool. But
He's a versatile man.
one last thing before we get into the plot, I would love to explain to the people why cemetery is spelled wrong for the title of the book, the movie, everything, because I didn't know until you told me. I was like, well, I was like, there's no way that wasn't on purpose.
I
What
also
the hell
have
does that
more
mean?
context for you.
Oh yeah,
That.
of course.
So,
because it's clever, and I didn't realize it until you told me about it.
So it is very clever, and I have recently found this out myself, and it's going to be another fun fact before we get into the plot of this movie. So, about the plot, it's about a family from a big city who moves to a rural town, and it's a beautiful house, and everything about it is splendid, except for the fact that they live off of this horribly busy highway right off of it. And right down a path that's kind of hidden away from their house, there is a pet cemetery that has been set up by the children of this town where they all build their kids. So, and children want to spell, so it's cemetery. But this is like very much a mirror that something happened to him. So he lived in a house right off of a highway when they moved for him to work, and there was a little path off from their house, and there was a real pet cemetery that was misspelled that way as well.
No way. So that's based off of a real life thing?
Yes.
That's crazy.
That's what I said.
I wonder if that's still like there wherever
Probably.
it was.
Those old, what are they, country bumpkins up out in Maine, they keep things the way they are.
That's crazy. That's really interesting. That's based off of a real life thing.
Mm-hmm.
How cool. Wow.
I know.
Actually makes it even creepier, honestly.
Doesn't it? He very much has said that this is like a what if this had happened. Like, his kid really did almost have something happen to him, like in this story, and this was kind of him living out that horrible curiosity that was in the back of particularly this human being's brain. That what if this had happened? What if all this horrible shit had started to happen to my family? That was preceded by this one tragic event. And yeah, it's just this is sad, and I think Stephen King, especially when he's younger, because I don't want to say he was just really young when he wrote this. He's a lot younger.
Is it known when he wrote it?
Yeah, this came out in the early 80s, and if I'm not mistaken, he's born in the 40s.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he's born in the late 40s, so he's probably about, he's a little bit younger than your grandparents now.
Oh, okay.
But not by a lot.
So, did this book, or the movie came out close to when the book did?
Yeah, 6 years after the book came out.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, relatively close.
Yeah. Well, because I was like, I almost wonder if it was like a Rosemary's Baby situation, because that was so weird how those came out like the same time.
I know, yeah, no. This was not one of those.
So interesting. Oh, well, I guess 20 minutes into the episode, this might be our record before actually getting into the meat of it. So why don't we talk about...
guys.
Nah, this was... I'll say that's your best rambling that you've had ever. Hello, but it's just because you're very knowledgeable about your boy.
My best
Your
friend.
favorite writer. But yeah, why don't you give me the plot?
So, we see this sweet little family, whose last name is Creed, which I like. I think that's sweet. I think it's really sweet. There's Lewis the dad, Rachel the mom, and their 2 children. Ellie, who's probably maybe in kindergarten, maybe first grade. She's very, very young. And their little boy, Gage. And he is the cutest little boy ever. That actor who they got to play in this he's the sweetest little boy.
He might be the most adorable child I've ever seen in a movie.
He's so cute with his blonde hair and his big brown eyes.
He's
and
very
cute. Oh, he's perfect. I love him. Just want to give him a big smooch in the face. Good snuggle. So it's this perfect little family, and they've moved from Chicago to this itty bitty little town in Maine, because Lewis is a doctor, so he's going to be like a teaching physician, I think, at the University of Maine, whatever. They move in across the big-ass highway. I almost said the street, but I'm like, no, that's a horrible highway where all of these big rig trucks are always going by.
Like oil rigs and stuff?
Yes, like 80 miles an hour right next to their house. And so across the street is my best friend in the whole world, Herman Munster. So his name in the movie is Judd, but I'm going to call him Herman Munster. I'm sorry. And they're sweet. They're kind of settling in. They get somebody to be like a helper around the house, and They introduce themselves to him, and he's super nice, and they're kind of questioning, like, huh, there's that weird little path right off our property. You know, you seem knowledgeable about the town. You've lived here a long time. Would you happen to know what that is? And he's like, yeah. Anyway. And they kind of settle in for a couple days, and then he's like, no, I'll show you all what's down the path.
Mm-hmm.
And so he takes the whole family, everyone's boyfriend, Lewis the dad. Greg low-key is in love with him, and me too. So
You don't call me out like that.
there are so few movies, especially of this time, in my opinion, that have someone that looks so good, that photographs so well. And then the mom she's a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful face. And it's like, damn, y'all make me feel
And the
bad.
kids are adorable.
Oh, the cat's cute. Like, oh, I love him.
Good old
yes.
Winston Churchill.
Yes, they call him Church. That's the little girl Ellie's cat, and he's beautiful. And so he takes them over to the path, and they walk down it, and he's like, well, this is the Pet Sematary. This is where all us local kids who've lived here all this time, you know, we keep our creatures, and then they die, and we bury them. A lot of them have been lost to this road next to our houses. And that's just the way it is. And it's Herman Munster and Lewis trying to, you know, discuss with the little girl, with Ellie, and try to kind of explain to her, like, this is what this is, and, you know, people don't live in a cemetery, and trying to kind of, in a gentle way, without her having to experience anything bad, what death is. And Rachel kind of trips. She gets upset. So she's like, give me the baby, you know, like, she's too young, she shouldn't hear about all this, and she's visually disturbed. And this is...
And Rachel's the mom, I don't know if you said
Yes, Rachel's the mom. My bad.
No, you're good.
And she's very much upset and really wigged out, and I think she shows that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after, like, not a lot of time has passed, but enough, from when they've moved in, and so they kind of have started to establish that they actually are a really loving family, and they all get along really, really well, and they're devoted to their children, and now they're showing her backstory as being, like, she's it's not normal. Like, I feel like her reaction to that, I'm not saying that it's easy for any parent to tell their children the reality of death.
Yeah.
But the way she handles it, she's pissed, and she doesn't want to be there. So the next day, after they've gone home and settled in, Lewis is going to work for the first time at the hospital, and oh god, it shows you everything that happens here.
Yeah.
They're bringing in, just as he's going to work, a jogger who just got hit by one of those trucks, those huge big rigs, and his brain is coming out of his skull.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And there's blood everywhere, and it's fucking gross.
Yeah, it's really the only gory or graphic part of the whole movie. It's kind of like almost took like a tip from Rosemary's Baby on that, actually, just having one brutal scene like that to kind of almost, I don't know if it would even be for shock value or what, but just, I guess, to kind of like set up the horrors to come, I guess is the best way to put it.
I think so. It's just like very much this very real thing that happens, and this is what it looks like. And you see Lewis is, you know, determined that even though he knows this guy who they call him Pascal, his last name's Pascal, even though he knows that he's dead, that he's dying, that he can't help him, that he cannot save him, he does everything he can to try to help him, to try to resuscitate him. He makes damn sure that he does his due diligence as a doctor. And while he's doing this, he looks, again, very visually disturbed. Like, he's not taking this well. It's his first day in this hospital, and this dude rolls in with half his brain out of his head. And I cannot imagine what's going through his mind. Like, what the fuck? Like, are you fucking kidding me? I just got here. He's like, I never saw this shit in Chicago.
Rough first day.
For real. And he's helping him, and he's trying to restart his heart, and then he knows it's failing, so he calls it. You know, he pronounces him dead and is sitting with him because you kind of have to, I guess, and to have all those formal documents. And then this guy sits up and he starts talking. And it's not like a total coherent thought, but it's enough of, like, he can get his point across to Lewis, and he's telling him, don't go to this Pet Cemetery again. It's no good. He calls him by his name. It really wigs him out. He tells him the ground is sour. that it's no good. Don't go there and don't go past it, because nothing good will come of it. And it just wigs him out really bad. He's like, how the fuck does this guy know my name? And then he dies, and he's like, okay, everything's fine. Like, it's, maybe he heard them talking about me, like, in those last moments, and it's just like, you know, he tries to help himself keep rational thought going on. And it's so sad, because Lewis is so human. Even now, like, you don't know him that well, but he's very human.
Yeah.
And so that night, he's in bed, and he's fast asleep. And he has a dream about Pascal, who's telling him, as a ghost, that, you know, you can't do this, and nothing good is going to come of this, and he tells him to get out of bed, and leads him to the Pet Sematary. And he tells him again, don't cross the barrier past this Pet Sematary, because the ground is sour. It's evil, that it's nothing good will or can happen. And Lewis then wakes up, and he's like, oh, it's a dream, whatever. He throws off the blanket, stayed up, and there's dirt and leaves and shit all over his feet and all over the bed. And I remember that freaked me out the first time I saw this movie. I was like, oh, shit. Because it was just like, oh, no.
Like, that wasn't a dream.
No, because the whole time he's like, I'm dreaming, wake up, oh my god. Like, he's tripping, and it's so fucked up. And then it cuts to being Thanksgiving, and Lewis stays back, and Rachel takes the kids to go to see her parents, because he sets it up here early too, is that he does not get along with her family.
Yeah.
And so he stays behind. And oh, it's so sad. We've set up that Ellie really loves her kitty cat Church. Church is so cute.
Winston Churchill.
He's so beautiful, and he gets run over by a car. And he gets a call from Herman Munster to come across the street, like, I'm pretty sure this is your daughter's cat. And you can see that he's already so sweet on this little girl. Like, he loves her already. He doesn't want to have to tell Lewis that this has happened. Lewis comes over and he's like, shit, that's my cat. And he's like, I don't know how you're gonna tell her. Like, this is no good. And he knows that Ellie's gonna be completely devastated by this, so he does something that he knows is bad, and he's like, alright, get the cat, get a shovel, I'll see you in the morning. He's like, the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, just meet me. And Munster's like, just trust me on this. And he leads him past the Pet Sematary. And I'm just like, Lewis, you had this, like, prophetic dream about a dead guy.
Yeah.
With his
telling
brain...
you exactly where not to go.
Seriously, and you're gonna do it, but I get it. I understand where he's coming from. And so they go past the Pet Sematary, and there's an ancient burial ground made by the native people who had originally lived there. And Herman Munster tells Lewis that he needs to bury the cat and leave him there. That he tells him, like, I'd help you, but you have to do it yourself. And then he tells him, you can never tell anyone what we've done here. No one will ever believe you, and no one can ever know. And so they leave and act like nothing happens, and the next day, Lewis goes downstairs in the house into the basement, and there's Church, and he's like, wow! And that's what scared the poop out of Craig.
Yes, an evil-ass cat.
He's not evil.
He's
a baby.
He's definitely evil.
He wasn't always evil.
That's the point of the movie.
Okay, listen. It's like, shout out to anyone who's ever seen Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that.
No, when it's about they're witches.
Oh, okay.
And this guy dies, and they try to bring him back to life. And it's always that it's dark and unnatural, that whatever comes back is not
the same,
right.
Yeah.
It's not them. So that's not Church. That's something living in his body.
Yeah.
And walking around to him. And so it freaks Lewis out, and he's like, what the fuck? And he noticed that he smells horrible, like the worst death ever. That he's just not himself, and he's really vicious, which is out of character for Church. And so he goes and he brings it up to Herman Munster, and he's like, this isn't right, like, that creature was fucking dead, but, you know, I'm not a vet. What do I know?
Yeah.
And so Herman Munster's like, listen, when I was a kid, I had a dog. I loved my dog. My dog died. Someone took me back to that Pet Sematary, and I took, it upon myself to bury my dog and let him come back. But he might be a little different. He tried to eat my mom, whatever. Like, kind of casual, like you're having a beer together, and he's like, what the fuck? But he tells him that he did it because he wants to try to spare Ellie the grief of losing this creature because she can't. She's so young and she's not going to handle it well. I know, speaking from experience of losing my first pet before I even started the first grade, you're not ready when you're that young to have to understand what that means.
I don't think you're ready ever, honestly.
No.
I put my first dog down when I was 19, I believe.
You're never ready.
And that was one of the hardest days of my life still. I mean, it's hard because pets are never around long enough.
No, they're not.
So, and it's like, you know the day's gonna come, but you're never ready. Because it's like, I think it's the idea that you're their entire life, but they're only a fraction of yours that makes it hurt more.
It's true. And the thing is, too, is like Lewis promised her that, you know, the cat would be okay.
Oh, yeah.
And that they would always, you know, be together for as long as his life would allow. And that would be until she was old enough to understand and old enough to be able to part ways with him. And Rachel pressured him to promise to her that nothing would happen to the cat. And of course, it's while they're away that this happens. And all Herman Munster wants to do is spare this little girl of this pain and suffering that she's gonna feel, and he doesn't want Lewis to have to experience this. He doesn't want to have these really nice people have to tell their children that, and I understand. He didn't do it with malicious intent. He didn't do it thinking that anything truly awful was going to come of it. He had hope that because someone did this out of love, that the result was going to be good. But he could not have been more fucking wrong. Yeah. Anyway, so much. They come back. They kind of notice the cat smells like ass and is being a little weird, but they'll let it slide. And, you know, the holidays pass, and one day they're all out in the field in front of their house together, and Herman Munster's with them, and they're flying a kite, and they're so enjoying their life together, and it's so beautiful for a moment. It's so real. And then the little Gage, runs out into the road, and Lewis is so close to catching him. He's running after him. He's like, no, not my baby, not my baby. Like, I can save him. And he doesn't. And he gets hit by this car, and then all they show is his little shoe fly away from his body, and Lewis just kind of collapse and scream, and it's so fucking sad.
Yeah. Like, my heart is sinking right now just thinking of that scene again.
I will... no, never. I'll never, ever, ever, ever get over that shit. And then it cuts to the funeral, and Rachel's parents trip. Her dad trips on Lewis.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of Lewis.
Blaming him, saying, this is your fucking fault, and all this awful shit to him. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that that's the child that you made with someone and had built a life around.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been more mad at a fictional character than Rachel's dad in that movie.
Fuck him, dude.
Because that was the most unnecessary, unfair thing that's ever happened to a character.
And it's like, you're such a piece of shit.
And then when Lewis started to fight back, everyone else is like, what are you doing? Why are you hitting him? It's like, well, he didn't start it.
Seriously. But, I mean, stranger things have happened anyway.
God, man. That was the most angry I've ever felt watching a movie.
Oh, God, I feel it.
It really got to me.
And so, all that shit happens, and Rachel and Ellie have been sleeping all day, and Lewis is downstairs, and he's been drinking, and so Herman Munster comes over, and it's so sad because he knows. Yeah. It's like he's never lived Lewis's life, but he knows what's going through his head. And he's anticipating that he's going to want to take Gage, and after he's been buried, and go put him in the Pet Sematary, like the burial ground. And he tells him, no, like, you can't do this. I don't know how else to put it. It's very much like he made a mistake in showing Lewis this place. And then there's bad shit that's rising because they buried the cat there and made it come back, because it'd been God knows how long since that had happened before. And he tells him that this isn't right. Sometimes dead is better. That nothing that comes from him taking the child and putting him there will ever be good. It will never be him. It will never fix the hole that lives inside of his heart now, and the hole in their family. And Lewis is trying to be all there, you know, he's trying to be smart, and he wants his son, but he knows it's like he's not stupid. He's very much like a scientific person.
Yeah.
And so Herman Munster goes on to tell him that he's seen it happen before. That someone in the town had buried their son out there, and when he came back, he was like a zombie and evil and started killing people and doing all this crazy shit. And so it escalated so much that they locked the zombie boy and his dad in the house and burn it down. And so he's just telling him over and over, like, you can't do this. This is
not gonna go the way you think.
No bueno, it's bad juju. We shouldn't have buried the cat because whatever evil shit is working at this burial ground is the reason why your son's dead. Essentially, is what he's telling him. And so it's just sad, and I don't know. It's very depressing to watch because even without that kind of supernatural undertone going on, it's very real. The sadness that you see in these people's faces is honest.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes this movie really hard to watch. Like, again, this is something you really cannot be for the light of heart and watch this movie. Because if you take away those pieces of the supernatural and stuff, it's too real. It's way too real. So they've had this talk, whatever. They've, buried the baby. Nobody's dealing with this well. So Rachel takes Ellie and they go to Chicago to be with her family, and they're telling Lewis, like, you need to come with us, and he's like, no, I'm not going to be around your dad after what he just did to me.
Yeah.
So, no, it's okay. So Lewis chooses to stay behind, and he keeps seeing Pascal, the guy who had his brain eaten out of his fucking head. He keeps seeing him in his dreams. And even I think it shows, like, when he's waking at this point, too, is you can kind of hear him whispering to him, like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do it. Like, you've already stirred something. And that was only with a cat. Like, I can't imagine what it'll be like with a human. Don't do it. And so Herman Munster's like, don't fucking do it, dude. Like, I know things seem really dark and, like, nothing will ever be good again right now, but things will get better. It's gonna take time and all of that, but you cannot, what is the word I'm looking for? Stoop to this. Like, there's a better way.
Yeah.
But he does it anyway. He goes, and he digs up the baby, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of, like, crying, and then he brings the little coffin up, and he takes his baby out, and he just sits there, and he holds him, and he cries, and I don't think anything in this movie hurt me like that did.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I think especially for the 80s, let alone now, it's definitely not normalized for men to love their children outwardly. It's like a macho thing, I guess, that they're not demonstratively affectionate with their children. They typically don't kiss them and hold them and tell them, like, you're my world, like how mothers do. But they show this man who loves his children and is broken, absolutely fucking destroyed by this child's death. And to see him hold him and kiss him on the head and cry over his corpse is devastating. 0 out of 10. My feels can't take it.
It's very sad.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move past that.
Don't cry.
So I will probably cry after this. Anyway.
That's fair.
So he's dug up our little baby Gage, and so he takes him back to the fucking burial site, and he buries him. I'm like, you're crazy. What the fuck? And back in Chicago, which is, that's a really fucking long way from this town in Maine.
Oh, yeah.
Rachel is, like, seeing, sort of, and hearing Pascal, tell her, so Ellie's, not Rachel, Ellie is hearing Pascal in her dreams.
Yeah. Telling
her that bad things are going to come. And she's almost prophetic. The child is definitely seeing, having visions. And it, of course, that's something Craig and I talked about when we watched it, is he doesn't explain that. But I feel like in a lot of his stories, like in real life, like if people do claim to have the touch and do claim to be whatever, in tune with
that kind
whatever,
of medium.
there is no explanation as to why.
Mm-hmm.
It just comes. And then Rachel starts having a bad feeling and kind of hearing him whisper to her that something's not right, that she needs to call Lewis, that she needs to go home, that she needs to leave the baby, leave Ellie, who's been telling her all of this stuff, chronicling this for her, and she needs to go because something's not right. And so she heads back to the house, and she goes over to see Judd, ever talking to him on the phone. Judd is Herman Monster.
Yes.
And she's like, fuck, okay. All right. And in the meantime, when she's on her way there, because, mind you, again, really, really far drive, the baby has come back, Loki. He's back. But he doesn't go to see Lewis.
Yeah.
He goes to see my best friend in the whole world, Herman Monster. Herman Monster's like, oh, fuck. Like, I told him not to do it. Where are you? Like, where are you, little baby?
And you hear like the little creepy baby laughs echoing from different parts of the house.
Oh, and in the meantime, Locage has gone into the house and stolen one of Lewis's scalpels, because of course Doc got a scalpel. And so he's kind of creeping Herman Munster out, and he's like, oh my god, like, this is it. And then he kind of like trips him, because Herman Munster's really, they make him look really old, so he's really old. And then he, like, straight up slices right through his Achilles heel in his one hand. And then he starts, like, stabbing him, and that was pretty brutal.
It was brutal.
He bites him on, like, the front of his neck and rips his throat out. And I was like, this child's, like,
free. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I didn't forget.
That was pretty fucked.
How can I forget? That was pretty fucked up. And I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Remember when I said there was only one violent scene in the movie?
Yeah, no, there's two for sure.
At least.
And it's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The whole time. Yeah, just, that's hardcore death. And so Rachel finally makes it home.
Yes.
And she's had to hitchhike, she's driven, all this crazy shit.
She's booking it, going from the airports and everything else. So.
And so she runs over to Judd's house, and she's like, hey, something's not feeling so good, oh no. And so she goes into the house, and she goes in to see Herman Munster, and she starts seeing her sister, which is what we talked about. I guess, which it's not necessarily like bad how they chronicle it, but it's weird how they show her past. Is I guess when she was a kid, she had a sister. Mind you, I guess her family really is that fucked up. She had an older sister who had like brittle bone disease and a really, really fucked up back, and they had like left her there to take care of her older sister, and she died. And that of course traumatized her in a horrible way. I mean, surprise, surprise. And that's why she was so like abhorrent to the idea of trying to teach Ellie about death. And she's like, I wasn't that much older than her when my sister died, and she's trying to get past it, whatever. And so she walks into Herman Munster's house, and she's like, something doesn't feel right. And then she starts seeing her sister. Not saying that she's actually there, but whatever's going on is making her hallucinate and see her sister in this house with her fucked up, nasty ass twisted back, telling her, you know, you killed me and it's my time to take you with me, and all this crazy shit. Her name is Zelda.
Oh yeah.
Nerds. And it's just like, what the fuck? And she clears up for a second and realizes that it's not her sister, but it's her baby holding a scalpel.
Excuse the dogs.
This is a full house, y'all. I'm sorry. And so she's like, wait, oh no. Oh no. That's my baby. So she's not actually seeing her sister. She realizes she's seeing her baby, who's supposed to be dead because they buried him after he got hit by a truck. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what the fuck? And she realizes he's holding a big ass scalpel. And even when he's all like undead and scary, he's still the cutest child I've ever seen.
Yeah, and there's where my biggest problem lied with the horror aspect of this movie. He hasn't been dead that long. It's not. It's like actually kind of comical.
He hasn't been.
Because it's just like this happy little kid going around stabbing everybody.
I mean, they definitely make him try to be like ferocious and evil.
And it just comes off as adorable, so it doesn't really work.
Okay, if they picked
He's too cute.
Listen, if they picked an ugly child, it would have worked.
I guess that's
But they
fair.
picked the most beautiful child I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it was a hard knock life for him. And so she's like, oh my god, my baby, it was supposed to be dead, my baby. So she reaches down and tries to, like, snuggle up to her baby, and he fucking wastes her. And mind you, like, he is not really alive. Like, he's undead in the way that, like, a zombie is, or, like, I guess, like, a vampire kind of is.
Yeah, because he does some ninja shit in a little bit.
Because he's not human. That's literally not their child. That is something wearing his skin. And it's creepy as fuck. So Lewis finally wakes up across the street.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck has been going on? And he sees the baby's little muddy footprints all over the house. And he goes into his bag, and for whatever reason, and notices that the scalpel case is fucking empty. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? And so he gets a phone call to the house, and it's the little baby. It's little Gage. And he said that he played with Herman Munster, and he played with Mommy, and he wants to play with him now. And he's like, oh my god. I'm like, oh shit, the cat went fucking rogue, and now this. So he fills 3 syringes with a fatal dose of morphine. Mind you, it wasn't illegal to have that kind of stuff at this time, especially when you're not, like, that kind of doctor in a small town. So he goes across the street to Herman Munster's house, and on his way he sees the kitty, and the kitty, like, wants to scratch his face and shit, and so he grabs him and he tells him, like, I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. And he puts him to sleep, and it's so sad.
Yeah, it is.
And then he goes across the street, and he's in Herman Munster's house, and he's seeing shit, and he's seeing this house as being, like, completely dilapidated and disgusting, and once he's up the stairs, like, all of that is gone, like, this facade, like, whatever this supernatural force is, it is powerful enough to make these people hallucinate, to really believe that there are things happening in front of them that are not there. Like,
very bizarre,
they're palpable, you know, it's really, really
yeah, because that threw me off at first.
Because Craig was like, what the fuck happened to the house? And I'm like, just wait, and you'll see. So, God, this is hard for me. So he goes upstairs, and he's getting taunted by the baby. The baby's like, come on and play. You know, evil. And he gets frightened by his wife's corpse falling from the attic. And then the little baby Gage attacks him, and he's like, what the fuck is happening? This isn't happening. And he kind of is fighting with him, and it's kind of like, that's not realistic, but it's like, that's not human anymore. Yeah. So, in a way, it is. And
yes and no. That's still where my main problem lies, but we can talk about that after.
And so he kind of, like, knocks him down, and it's so sad because he doesn't want to do this. He's looking at his child, what used to be his child, and he doesn't want to give him this fucking syringe of morphine to kill him, but he does it. And he walks away, and he very much, in that moment, when he's dying again, it's like seeing that beautiful little boy again, and it's so sad, and he just dies. And, it's just so sad. And so he picks up Rachel's body, and he kind of walks away, and he sets Herman Munster's house on fire with his son's body and Herman Munster's body in there. And so Pascal appears to him again and is telling him as he's walking away with Rachel's body, like, you're going to make it worse. Don't do it. Don't do it again. And so he's saying, you know, completely in disbelief of what's going on, horribly grief-stricken, not, you know, processing this truly in a realistic way. Yeah. Is like, the cat was dead too long. And then Gage was dead. He was a little fresher, but he was still too dead. But she just died, so it'll be better this time. You know, it'll work. She's fresh. And it's so sad. And Pascal just is like, fuck, I did what I was supposed to do. And just kind of dissipates, and it's sad. And we surmise that Lewis has gone to the burial ground and buried his wife. And so he's sitting at the table, and he's playing cards, whatever the fuck, because he's, like, losing his fucking mind. Yeah. And then Rachel comes in. You don't see her face yet, and she kind of walks up to him, and she's like, honey, I'm home. And he stands up, and her face is all fucked up. Oh, yeah. And it's fucked up. Like, it was gross, and he still kisses her, like, passionately, is still so in love with her, and he's like, everything's gonna be fine. It worked, and she has picked up a knife from the table, and then it kind of cuts, like it's going to show the credits, and then all you hear is him scream.
And that's it.
That's it. That's it. got a lot of gripes. So just on the ending, real quick. I don't think it's bad per se. It just makes me really sad because now that sweet little girl who loved her kitty cat
Mm-hmm.
and her little brother and her mom and her dad is stuck in a home with people that are actually really awful.
Yeah.
And both of her parents are dead. Her little brother is dead again. Her cat is dead again. And her new friend, this older man who was like a real grandfather to her, is dead too.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know. Like, she knows. She knows something terrible's going on. But she doesn't know. And now to know that she's really just alone in the world.
That's funny. I didn't even actually think about that.
I thought about it a
Yeah.
lot. I think about it all the time.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anybody yet, because, I mean, her dad's, even if he did live through that, he ain't gonna be sane.
Anymore, no.
Because he clearly had lost it by the end of the movie, so.
I would say just after their son's death, that's not Lewis anymore. Any truly coherent, normal human being part of him that could have processed grief and loss is gone.
Yeah.
Because that is, I cannot imagine. I don't ever want to know. I would not wish that shit on my worst enemy.
Oh yeah, of course.
To know that kind of horrible pain. It's not even just grief, that kind of loss.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, I'm definitely a sap and very much a sentimental person, but I feel like if that happens to a person, part of their soul is gone forever.
No, yeah.
You die inside. So I don't blame him. Like, I know, I've read, like, other people's reviews, like, well, this isn't realistic, and it's like, grief pushes people to do crazy things. And, I mean, people literally kill other people out of the sorrow that they feel from the death of someone they love. To kill themselves. To do all kinds of crazy shit. So, yeah, I don't think it's that far off. I mean, I think it's a very realistic reaction.
Mm.
And his wife wanting to run away and hide is some... I get it.
Yeah.
I hate to say I get it. This movie's so sad.
It is very sad. I would definitely put it, like I said, more of a think piece than a horror movie. And my main gripes really is just the failure of being scary when trying to be scary. But
yeah, it's funny because like
I guess that's kind of subjective. But like I said, like everything with Gage just came off as like comical to me.
if he
like
was,
him jumping from the ceiling like a ninja. Or, it's like, how did he hang his mother from the
he's
attic?
not human
Like
anymore.
stuff like that. I'm just but he's also a small
I know.
3-year-old.
If
like
he was
at
a little
most.
bit older, and that's the thing
Yeah.
too, is he definitely falls in that category too. There are a lot of writers that they want the children in their books to be little, but be very smart and very precocious and capable of things that little children are not supposed to be in terms of like intellect and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's like impossible.
Yeah.
And little kids are usually not like fiery.
That
awesome.
advanced.
No,
yeah.
because I mean, going back to The Shining, that's something that is prevalent in the book. Is that little boy is maybe 3, like as old as mine and Craig's niece. No, to be able to be smart, outspoken, just intelligent in a way that is beyond their time.
Yeah.
Which is something that I feel like is kind of leaning towards with Gage as well. And then that kid that they cast was like 7 years old, because you can't find a child that young that's like that. And I think that's part of that as well. But I understand where you're coming from for sure.
No, I get
But again, I really do stand by that if they had picked a kid that wasn't so perfect looking, it would have come off as different.
Yeah.
But they picked the world's most perfect child, so I want one. Anyway.
He is very adorable. But, yeah, overall, not my favorite movie. I understand why a lot of people like it. I'd say it's a pretty good movie, but not a good horror movie. Even though that's the category it gets thrown into.
I wish they hadn't categorized it as that. I think a thriller. Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say that's more
accurate. I think
accurate.
it could definitely fall into that more, because I remember the first time I saw it. You don't expect things to play out the way that they do. You don't expect him to go dig up his son's body.
Yeah.
You don't expect him to know that his son has murdered two people now. This thing living in his son's body is murdering people.
Mm-hmm.
One of those being his only friend in this town and his wife. And you don't expect him to continue to move down this path of insanity at all. And I think that's what makes it a thriller for sure. And the kind of that kind of ominous thing that Herman Munster has going on.
Yeah.
When he tells him, he's like, "Don't do it. Why? Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
I just told you, don't do it." Is definitely the elements of a thriller. Are there better movies that fit into that category? Sure, that like fit the archetype of what that's supposed to be better. Yeah, but hey,
would you recommend people read the book over see the movie?
Yeah, read this book. It's different. It hits different. It's he wrote the screenplay for this as well.
Oh, okay.
So fun fact number 1 or number 3 technically. So he wrote the screenplay for this. So this played out exactly the way he wanted it to, which I understand. This is the best adaptation that was going to happen of the story that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want like the full effect and understanding why people think it's scary more, I would say read the book.
Okay.
I don't think you'll be disappointed if you read it, given there are so many books he's written that are great. Like, everybody loves It because, you know, the movie they made a couple years ago, but, I mean, the OG Tim Curry one scarred me. I will never be the same person. But the book is very good. Yeah. It's like 1,500 pages long.
Yeah, I was going to say it's massive, but you've read it more than once, haven't you?
More than once. I'm crazy. And given I have a horrible phobia of clowns, it's a story that I love. And that's one that I think... There are a lot of books that he's written, obviously, but there are some definitely more than others that play to his strengths. Mm-hmm. Like things that show what his intentions are better, I think, and his real view of the world better. Because it's like he's said in more than one interview that I saw, is he doesn't think that there's no hope. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't think that the evil wins in the grand scheme of the world. And he wrote this, and it's not his finest work, and it's not what he believes in his heart to be the truth. Mm-hmm. And I think that things like It show his belief of what humans are like and what the world is like in a better way. Mm-hmm. And I think if you love fantasy books and you're ready to get into the long haul with something that's really good, the Dark Tower series is what I would recommend. And it definitely shows that, is it doesn't matter how dark things get and how much horror there is in the world, there is always hope. The Stand is also something that's really, really good, that shows that really well. That's something that's the one they're making onto, I don't know if it's Amazon or something, they're going to make it into a miniseries again. Oh. That there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And this, I wish this showed that. I do. But I also understand why it doesn't.
Thank you all for coming to Anastasia's Book Club and book recommendation series.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, I'm just kidding. Why don't you hit us with some fun facts, though?
Okay, so my fun facts.
Before we start closing up. I completely forgot about them, so sorry if we went out of order.
You're okay. First of all, bitches, George Romero almost made this movie. That's the Dawn of the Dead dude, Night of the Living Dead dude.
Interesting.
That's him with the weird glasses and he looks like he eats people.
Okay.
I'm sorry, George. I think you look like you eat people. I don't think he's alive anymore. I could be wrong. I don't remember. But yeah, no, I thought it was crazy. Also, Bruce Campbell, the Evil Dead guy.
Yeah.
One of my other boyfriends, my pre-Craig boyfriends, was actually the person that they had looked at to play Lewis. That's who they wanted. And that's, like, who they kind of started to build this screenplay character around. And then it was just like, no, that's not the one. This one's finer. I think it's so funny.
So funny. Isn't Stephen King in this movie as a cameo?
Oh, yes. There's my other really good one. I'm sorry. Guys, for a second, I didn't have anything else. Because I gave away all my really good fun facts. Okay, so you've watched the movie, I'm assuming, to be here. And it's the funeral of the lady who was just like their minor housekeeper. She kills herself. It's really sad.
But not super relevant because we didn't even have to bring it up.
No. And so they're at the funeral, of course. She worked for them. She's somebody they knew. And then there's the pastor. and the pastor is giving the eulogy, whatever, being like, the light of God. And that's Stephen King. And Craig didn't know that, but I know his funky looking ass anywhere. He is fucking huge. He has a really wide face and jaw, and he has to wear those big ass glasses because he's fucking blind, like someone we both know. Both of us.
Yeah, we're both pretty blind.
Yeah, so. I can't see anything. So yeah, I know him anywhere, and I was like, Craig, that's Stephen King, and he's like, what?
Well, I've only ever seen what he looks like as what he looks really like old. Now.
Yeah, so. His hair was still dark when they made this movie. If that helps you. His hair wasn't great yet.
It's funny.
But he tends to make a cameo in a lot of his movies,
which is cool.
Which I really appreciate that. I like seeing him. I think he's fun. He was in
He's your homeboy.
He's also in a really famous horror anthology movie, Creepshow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in that. The guy with the meteor and the weird. Craig's never seen it, but if you've seen it, with the meteor and the weird stuff that started growing on the guy, that's him. I was so afraid of him as a child. I remember being like a really little girl and seeing that, and it's a terrifying little story. I was like, oh my god. But he freaked me out because he's so tall and he's weird looking. Like, is he as weird looking as R.L. Stine? No. But he's still weird looking. I'm like, you kind of look like an alien. Tell me your secrets.
Your secrets.
But yeah. As far as that goes, that's all I have for now. Craig looks tired, and
oh, whatever.
I can go on talking about Stephen King and all the things I know about him and his stories for the rest of my life.
Sure.
So if anyone really wants to talk to me, my Twitter handle is Ann Olympian Hero, all spelled completely correct. I know how to spell. Hit me up. I'm that on everything.
Yes, hit her up. Talk to her about Stephen King. You'll make her a week if you do that. So
that's true.
And I think at some point we should just do a bonus episode where you just talk about all your favorite Stephen King things. I think that'd be fun.
It would be hours long.
Maybe towards the end of the year we can do that, because our last episode for the year, I think we've already said, but it is going to be The Shining. So
yes, which again,
we thought that'd be a fun one to end quote unquote season 1 or year 1 of the show on. So
if you haven't seen that movie, you need to see that movie. That's all.
So yeah, you have until the end of the year, basically.
Pretty much.
So.
But next week, wink, wink, it's a movie that I already know Craig ain't gonna like. It's called Friday the 13th. I'm pretty sure it came out in 1982. And it's a very young and still very much undiscovered pre-Footloose Kevin Bacon. That's right. That's right.
Are you sure I'm not gonna like it?
Yes.
Really? Do you like it? She shrugged.
It's alright. It scared the shit out of me when I was 11 years old.
I don't know. But that's the thing. I've been told, because I wasn't huge on Halloween, that I won't be huge on this either. But I'm still curious.
But that's something I would definitely say for anyone who watched that. If you didn't really like Halloween, you're not going to like Friday the 13th. They're both very slow and weirdly paced, and it's people kind of being assholes to each other, like bad teenagers.
Yeah.
Plus Kevin Bacon.
Your boy?
I actually don't like him.
Then why are you so excited about him?
Because, okay, it's not a secret. Most people in those movies die.
Come on.
Oh my god.
Dude, spoilers.
Kevin Bacon dies.
So wait, I need to know real quick.
Yeah.
To make sure I'm thinking of the right movie, because I literally know nothing. Is that the summer camp one?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Camp Crystal Lake.
Fun stuff.
But there is a much better camp one called Sleepaway Camp that we'll watch at a later date. Anyway.
Yeah. What? I don't know. Let's say right now. I mean, beginning of the year next year, we're gonna, of course, work on our schedule and all. And maybe you guys listening could tell us if you want to know the episodes more ahead of time. Like, whether we put out in batches so you guys can just watch ahead of time and have more time to watch and write in and whatever else. What do you think? Because I've had some people tell me they'd like to know, and some people said that they like the surprise every week. So
I have zero opinion.
That's fair.
I know that's terrible.
Well, listeners, commenters,
yes,
whoever,
let us know what you think.
Let us know, because we can let you guys know more ahead of time. Even now, we could start doing that if you guys wanted, because we have the rest of 2020 planned out. We don't have anything for 2021 planned out because, of course, we got enough time to not worry about it right now. But time is an enigma, and everything seems to happen way faster than we think it will.
Time is a human construct.
We're going to have to start coming up with our movie list soon enough. So, yeah, let us know. And if you would like to write into the show in the future, you could tweet our Twitter at BM&F Podcast. You can email us at bloodmonstersandfears@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, all that fun stuff. You could find Anna at an Olympiad Hero on all social medias. You could find me at Craigley1234 on all social medias.
And you can peep our Instagram. It's just Blood Monsters and Fears. I still haven't posted photos of my cat like I've been promising, but there are cute snippet little photos of the movies we watch, and I really like them, so you should look at it.
Yeah, we're trying to be more active on social media, everything else. I'm also, for anyone interested, starting a new podcast that'll be live by the time this goes up, called While We Collect. So if anyone wants to listen to that, it's just about collecting things, talking to other collectors that collect random stuff. So if that sounds interesting, be sure to check that out. And thanks again for listening to us and our fun little rambles about these spooky movies. We appreciate everyone that has been listening. And we'll see you again next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.